What's up, everybody? My name is BMX aka Brandon. This is episode 54 of the Anime Dojo. I'm alongside Chris and Deon this evening. Gentlemen, how you doing?
Doing great.
We have a good amount of stuff to get into. This will be a very interesting show because we've we found out that Reincarnated Slime is getting a video game, kind of like Soul Leveling did. It's kind of RPG. We'll talk about it. By one of the best video game teams in Japan, which I think that's going to make it a very good game. We're also going to talk about a interesting thing that is going to happen with um, a video I watched this morning. It's about an anime convention that me and Chris are going to eventually go to. I'll talk about that as we get to it. But the thing I want to talk about with it is because it's how it was came together, and I think it's really interesting because it kind of fixes one thing that we kind of talked about in the past couple of weeks about mainstream stuff. And I think this will kind of help that a little bit in the future. We'll go through the charts and we'll go to the charts and then we'll go through Slime episode 52 and Kaiju number 8, episode 3. So let's start with this. We found out that this week, or I found out a couple last week, but we're going to talk about this week, that Reincarnated Slime is getting an RPG style game. It's going to be done by Bandai Namco, who's also made Tekken, a couple other things in their catalog or library. They've helped publish. They've helped publish Final Fantasy, or had some hands in it. In that, they've also had hands in King of Fighters and a couple other things. I'm gonna start off with Deon for this. Deon, what do you think about Reincarnated Slime getting an RPG style game? And do you think it's a good idea?
See, it's one of those things where I would love for it to happen if they do it right. Like if you do it and make it a video game first, and then like make it slime worthy, then it's great. But I don't want it to be just like a telltale type of following the same story type of game. Like let's actually make it a video game worth playing. That's just the time I got reincarnated as a slime theme. You know?
So in that case, are you saying it should be more build your own character, going through the world, not playing as the original characters from the show, per se?
Yeah. And even if it is original characters, it doesn't have to be the original story. Like,
Okay.
I don't want it to be a story game. You know, like if it's an RPG, let it be more, I don't know, because they did it with Sword Art Online, where it was technically an RPG, but it was basically just a gotcha game where you just collect all the little characters and some swords, and it really wasn't a video game. It was like what's the little monster, the pet monsters, the Tamagotchis?
Tamagotchis, or even now,
It's
probably
basically
more.
like,
Yeah. Like with Pokemon stuff where you can do
you
like
basically
Pokemon Go.
didn't even have to play it. Yeah, like something like that where it's not even worth calling a video game. I actually want to have a video game. Let's play something.
Chris, I'm gonna ask you the same question. What do you think about the fact that Reincarnated Slime is getting a video game adaptation? Do you agree with Deon that the fact is I want to actually play a video game, or is it just gonna be like simple? Like I kind of see where Deon's going, a simple cash grab of like, here's the title, here's the name of the show, everybody likes it. We're just gonna make a pretty much one-to-one recreation of the show.
I was saying the same thing about Solo Leveling when it came out.
Correct.
Because, like, if you make a game where I know what powers I'm going to get and it's kind of scripted, I know what's coming, boo. Now, if you make it a Solo Leveling based off world where I can go and choose my power-ups, I can lead my own life, that's thrilled. I would definitely play that. Slime
Yeah.
is definitely in that same category.
Like, if you
Yeah.
could make it a build your own character, open world game, like just in the slime world, like make an Elder Scrolls version of the time I got reincarnated as a slime, and we're winning.
Exactly.
You know,
Now,
or
I
an
know Chris.
Elden Ring version, however.
Yeah, I can see both. Now I think Chris remembers this guy. We did the podcast when we talked about soul leveling, but Deon, it's funny because soul leveling's already had 12 million pre-registers for the game. It has not officially came out yet. It's been pre-registered. A lot of people getting it early access, trying it. Do you think it's the same type of thing here? If they do a pre-register system or an early access system, people are going to flock to it because it's the main value. Does that help the game more or less, or does
No,
that hurt the game?
it hurts it.
Oh, why?
See, slime's been around so long that the hype is almost gone. Where solo leveling was new, it had all this new hype around it, all the new buzz. Even Slime right now with the shows, they're not doing too well on charts. You're not seeing too many forums talking about them as much as you did when it first came out. Like, that buzz isn't selling as much as it could be.
Yeah.
With it releasing a game, it's almost like, all right, are you doing this to just pick up the buzz? Like, yeah, like, is this a last-ditch attempt to stay relevant? Whereas solo leveling, it was like, well, we're just going to keep riding this wave we're already on. So it's kind of like a different dynamic to the releases. As far as like pre-ordering, that would depend on the trailer.
Okay. Okay.
Well, I'll
If you
say
give us
this.
a good trailer where it's not
I was
super
gonna say,
cartoony looking or like,
Uh,
say
I
again,
mean, there is a trailer on. I think the site I found it was comicbook.com, and there was a small trailer. It didn't look. There was like a teaser. It wasn't like the biggest trailer. It was like a less than a minute. Chris, my answer is more too. I don't know what you could put in a trailer to really get somebody hype. What would you need in a trailer like that, Chris, to make it where it actually makes some sense? Like people want to go to it.
well, based off of what Deon is saying, it's more or less like if we do. Okay, let me phrase it this way. If the slime game goes bad, I don't think it will affect the anime as much as the solo leveling game. If it were to fail, it will hurt the anime more than it would if it's slime. Because slime, like, kind of like Deon saying, it has that dedicated fan base to the point to where people are not really talking about it. They know what's going to happen. It's the show. It's been out. Whereas solo leveling, if it comes out really messed up, they can really lose a lot of people.
Okay.
yeah.
But in order to make the game stand out, they would. For me personally, you have to show me how it's different from the game, or different from the anime.
Okay.
Like, and then make references to the game. Like when I say references, like maybe your first mission is with Jinnu, and it's with Jinnu when he's already powered up, and he was like, "Yeah, I can't to save you this time, but the next time you got to be strong enough to face me head on." Like stuff like that kind of brings out hype in the game to me.
Okay, I can see
Yeah,
that.
definitely.
I can see that. I think the thing with slime, which would be kind of hard to do, is the fact that slime has the thing where Rimuru your main character, and he gets powered up through the system. Same thing like Jinnu, but I think if you had a way to say, okay, Rimuru helps you out. Here's the first like couple missions with Rimuru, then Rimuru leaves off and says, "You're on your own. You can get as strong as you want, but eventually you're gonna have to come back and face me." cool, I could see that. Or face the rest of the crew in separate ways. So like you face the orc, all the orc, his orc friends. You face some of the goblins. You face the wolf. Like you have those characters to learn from, but also maybe master their stuff, and then you kind of can pick and choose from that. We'll see what happens. I'm slightly worried that we're gonna get a lot of these game adaptations because these shows are doing well. Demon Slayer tried it didn't work. Slow Level's getting the hype it's getting because it's okay. I kind of think Slime's in that weird middle ground where it's like, yeah, I can see where it's going, but not really great. I don't want to see, and we're going to talk about this with the charts in about maybe 15 minutes. So I don't want to see Kaiju get a game announcement anytime soon because if they get a game announcement, then it's a cash grab for me. At that point, you're doing the thing that I don't want to see. But hey, I'll give you credit.
Everybody's doing the same thing.
Yeah. But I'll ask you gentlemen this. I'll start off with Chris for this. What percentage chance would you give this slime game working? Like actually doing well enough to where it's gonna have a long life cycle, maybe last maybe 3 to 4 years at most? Or is it, and if it's a multiplayer type thing, or if it's just an RPG where it's like a complete game, do you think it gets the hype that it will get from what the fan base is asking, what the fan base is?
See, so that depends on the gameplay.
Yeah, because I'm already saying no. I think to me, games like they don't really come across the same way like that.
Okay.
Yeah,
Does that make sense?
It does. It
They're in
does.
their own
Because
lane.
I mean, because look at Halo. Halo has had one of the biggest fan bases within the last 10 to 20 years.
Yep.
And it immediately almost vanished when the show came out. Now, honestly,
nobody watched the show.
I'm like the show is all right, but I feel like the show would have done better if the game never existed. Because fans are expecting what they're expecting from Master Chief that they're not getting.
But the movie was just better.
Yeah.
Sorry. I tried to give it a chance. It was
you're not wrong.
But no, I would say
I can see why Chris saying no. Yeah.
Yeah. And I can agree to a certain extent. It can go two ways for me. It can be one of those games that you, in like a year or two, you get for free out of the store, and you play it because it was free. Like, or I don't see it like completely just flopping, because of the title, but it could also be such a masterpiece, and it could be easily done. You don't have to be Rimuru. We know that there's more reincarnated people in this world. It could be easily a masterpiece where you play as a reincarnated person and you come in and you be friends with Rimuru, and your goal is to become a demon lord and just get power and fight and battle countries, and amazing. And then I can see everybody loving this and lasting forever, especially if it's like a open world MMORPG type of game where you can play with other people online and battle your country against their country or your race against their race, and that'll be cool. But if you give me a short story mode and then that's it, like, it's gonna suck. Like most Naruto games suck. It is just what it is. You get a couple of them. I think like Ninja Storm 2 was okay, and some of the other Ninja Storms are cool, but no one played the game. Everyone just fought. Like, you might as well have just made a Tenkaichi type of game.
I will say,
fight.
I will say this. I think what you're saying, if it's a massive multiplayer game, I think it'll work well. Like you say, if it's a short story game, it's not going to work. But I also think too, on the flip side of that coin, you have to do one thing you can do very easily with your player character. If you're gonna have a player character, you can be any race from the show. You have all the races there, so ultimately make it like a Skyrim or make it like Elden Ring, where
Yeah.
you can be a certain any class you want, and then build up the world there, your town, however you want to do that. That's the best way to do it. Outside of that, I don't really see anything else really working.
Honestly,
Go
I want
ahead.
to see solo leveling done more like Assassin's Creed.
Ooh. Okay. Okay. Which actually could work. It
Okay,
could
and
work.
then I would
I
like to
could see that.
see, and then I would like to see if they just had to do slime, it needs to be more or less like Digimon.
Um,
Yeah, I can see that one. I'll give you Digimon, Chris, but I'll also say
oh no, I've never liked the Digimon game.
Well, okay, I would say Digimon mixed with, and it's probably a weird thing I'm about to say, Minecraft, because it's slice of life anyway. So do have the
Yeah, I can see more
Minecraft style like world in like that aspect, and then you can use the Digimon side for more of that, because that's ultimately what you're doing anyway. Beating up these people, fighting these groups, kind
You
of
know
knowing your
what?
town. Yeah.
Give me a GTA style slime RPG video game.
Oh, um, mm, that's a very that's a very
Sounds
different
like
Just
game.
Far
be
Cry.
your character and just go into the world.
That sounds like Far Cry. Sounds like
That's
Far
also
Cry.
that's,
Yeah.
that's the other one I was thinking of. Um, yeah. Ultimately, say this, ladies and gentlemen. I think it's a weird concept because I'm like both of these guys. I don't think this should be a thing. If it is, fine. I don't think it's gonna do badly. I'm like Deon. I think if you can make it do well enough, it'll last for a bit. But that's the problem. Can you make it do well enough for a series that's not is still not in the human conversation, not in the zeitgeist right now, not in the understanding of people? So it's like, what do you do next? I'm ultimately unsure, but I think that's going to be the question for down the road. Um, we'll see, because I also think too, if we get any more game announcements down the road, I'll be very, very, very weary to listen to get to see if they actually going to do well. This is 3 in the past 2 months, so we'll see what happens next. Because the next couple ones are going to be kind of weird, maybe a little bit off. But nevertheless, let me know what y'all think in the comments. Let's get into the next story as we get closer to talking about the charts and things. This next thing is kind of what we've kind of been talking about the last couple weeks, kind of building off that thing of like mainstream stuff and what how you get people in anime and kind of things like that. Anime, pop culture, manga, all that kind of stuff. Though the video I put in our group chat was basically talking about and from the city of Houston, talking about anime convention happened out there. Anime Matsuri. The one of the founders for it, he was on the podcast. It was like a 16-minute video, and they kind of the ladies that were doing the video asked her about what um what what is anime Matsuri? Why is it so popular and things? What's the real um reason behind this this collab and things? It's really interesting video, but basically what this got down to was just asking questions. I was talking about the history, and the thing I got to the most and I thought was really interesting was the fact that in the video they kind of talk about how they got to the point of getting into Houston and all that, and why they looked at the venues and everything. And it was a very interesting way of telling the history of the city. The question I'm going to bring up to both of these guys in a minute is that the way they handled it, the lady and her husband who run the con, or who own the con, basically was talking about how They went to the city. They looked at the place. They looked at the convention center and everything. And she, went to the lady who is one of the heads of the convention center, and she's like, "So what's anime?" And I had conversations rolling, hotels asking questions, and they've had this long partnership for this will be 18 years in a row. They've done that convention in Houston. So I'll kind of start with Chris for this. Chris, if you want to try to get something mainstream or something that is going to be more prevalent for people to understand, the way way she talked about in the video, she kind of talks about she was really excited to help them understand what anime is about. But also the other thing she did is they built that partnership through, you know, kind of having other people involved, like the mayor and other things like that. Do you think that's one of the better ways to get a city involved in something like this and give them the understanding of like this is going to be kind of good for bringing people to the city, but also just getting more people aware of what this is?
Now, if I'm being completely honest, it works both ways. Because
Okay.
because depending on what a person already or what a person views as anime, and when I say that, I mean what anime does for them as a person. What other people's thoughts and opinions may either anger you or you can agree with them, and that can make people either become turn on the anime or turn off the anime. However, I say all that to say that, like, the cities that they're in are only there because the people have discovered that there is a fan base of over a certain amount of people to have that there. Because if there's no agreement for that to happen, then there's nothing else for it to be done. Does that make sense?
That makes sense. Yeah, I think that is a good point. I'll let you continue. I do apologize for cutting you off, but also I think it's also funny. How do you have a city that's bought into this so much to the point where they're really just interested by the fact that even city leaders are actually kind of wondering, going to the Ravens opening ceremony and all that kind of stuff. Like, what makes that passion, in that case?
Hello?
I can hear it.
Okay. What was your question?
So, like, with the city trying to, with the city, willing to look into this and actually try to think about what, how they can be part of this, and having some, the mayor and other people wanting to see what this is all about and ultimately get intrigued themselves. What makes that partnership be so connected to where they're open to this type of thing over the years, and it's more and more, I guess, stronger as the time period has gone on?
I'm gonna give you one word. You ready for it?
Go ahead.
Revenue.
All right. Fair enough.
Revenue.
Yeah.
Because,
I mean,
Brady, if he wanted to rent out my house for a party, initially I'm gonna say no. But if you got enough money, that no might can turn into a maybe, all the way to a yes. You see what I'm saying? I think that's the way that most cities will look at it.
But thinking back, we've been to Akon a couple times, and I've seen the banners in Fort Worth. They've shown pictures of them. This is probably one of the few times, like, there was, like, they had I think 1 year, I don't know if it was the current year or past year, where one of the highway signs was talking about anime Missouri on the billboard, and it was just like, is this? It's funny because that sense of advertising is not normal, but at the same time, it is still around, and it's interesting also because on the flip side, I think it's hard to have Because the thing I'm thinking about now is the fact like you have they're trying to embrace like McDonald's and you're trying to do all these other things, but this is probably one of the most genuine times I'm like, okay, a city and a group of people are trying to understand this and they want to learn about it. And it's actually kind of funny because one of the ladies in the little video, I think the lady that you see most of the time talking, she mentioned she went with one of her kids and she was really interested by it. And she just kind of was like, okay, I see why it likes this. I keep, we kind of come back, next year and everything. It's just kind of like, you can't, I know you can't, people, they try to push it down your throat of like, well, this is anime, but at the same time, it's like, I mean, at the same time, this is probably one of the most genuine things of like, oh, this is why we did it. This is what it's about, all that kind of stuff. So my other side of the question is like, you say revenue, but can it also be just a curiosity factor? Because that's a weird thing because most people don't have the curiosity. Usually not too much curiosity because people think it's weird anyway. But this is like genuine curiosity and also the fact that more cons have gone more family friendly, as you've seen.
So do you want me to answer that or do you want Deon to answer?
I'll let you answer because Deon walked off for a second. I don't know if he disconnected.
Okay. So it's like, bro, when you look at it from a company's point of view, of course, there's always safety and interest and everything like that, but all that's going to come in the negotiations. And, do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like when I say the negotiations, like okay, if you tell me, this is what I say revolves around revenue, because if you were to tell me that, hey, I'm going to bring your city. Not only am I going to bring tourism to your city, which is going to bring revenue for your city, by having this here, you can also expect to bring in this type of revenue. Well, then my next question is, well, how do you expect? Well, what do you have to go by? What am I going to have to expect? And you see, now that's when all of those questions get answered. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yeah, but it's also kind of interesting too because they said, I think it was also kind of funny I think it's also funny they mentioned the fact the lady who ran the Grunthicon, she mentioned the fact over the 17-year period, they've grown to the point where like now they're averaging almost 60,000 people out there, which is insane. They're the second largest con, 60,000, which is the second largest con in North America, and it only rivals, I think, LA, which has Anime Expo. But it's also like they feel like they what's the word I'm looking for? They feel like they can ultimately have, they're trying to make it good for fans, but also make it feel like something even a lot nicer. And it's also interesting in the conversation that she mentioned, she felt kind of happy that the mayor got involved. She felt happy that the mayor was dressed up as a Naruto character. She felt like having him there, being there the last couple of years, it just kind of feels like it's part of the community. The other reason I bring this up too is just kind of thinking back to like we want to see anime is not for everybody, but if you can give people small doses and understand, okay, here's what they need. What do you do? Here's what you can show them something small. And she mentions Demon Slayer, like one of the girls mentioned Demon Slayer off the bat. I think that's going to help more people understand. Okay, this is what this is about. This is how this works. These are these shows and things, and it's kind of like, okay, that's more fun. That's a small dose, and if you want to find out more, you can. Is there?
You're right, but see, people have to want to know more too. People have to want it. You know what I mean?
That's fair.
So the question is, how do you make somebody want it?
I mean, you technically can't. You generally can't make somebody want to know more. They have to want to know themselves.
You have to pique their curiosity.
Correct. You have the curiosity. Yeah, Peak the Kira.
Yeah,
Either.
I think we have to remember that, especially our age group, that the people who watch anime who come before us remember that anime was kind of like taboo. You know, because you didn't know what you were going to see. Half of it was part hentai, and then what wasn't hentai was still banned because it was all under the same category.
Yeah.
Until, you know, Dragon Ball Z came out, kind of streamlined it a little bit more, you know?
Yeah. It's also very it's very interesting now because you talk about that. Like, you have your isekais, you have your slice of life, you have shonen, you have this, that, and the other. I don't know if that's helped it more, where it's just not one group of things, but multiple group things. All of to say, I'm wondering if the time periods have changed, where when we first went to anime conventions, for myself at least, they were mostly strictly anime. Now they kind of combine anime and pop culture and multi other things. Um, and I think that's kind of helped it a little bit. I ultimately see it kind of staying um, staying more above above certain things, or like people focus on certain things. Because Pokemon, we talked about this last week with Pokemon being one of the biggest anime outside of Japan, because it's Pokemon. People know who Pikachu is. You had Sailor Moon, you had other things on there too. So there's something there that people can latch onto. Can they find something else within that? I don't know. It's an interesting thing I kind of found, and I was like, okay, this is what it always kind of, it didn't bug me, but I always kind of thought back to like when Evo first started and a couple other conventions started. They were this like niche hardcore fan thing, and now a lot of those conventions are playing towards families and new people, and just like letting you dip your toe into the water, as they say. And as you get closer, deeper in, you're like, okay, I like this more and more. I might say it, so I might go deeper. But as I do that, you're gonna have more understanding of here's what here's what you think about these uh shows and this type of stuff, cosplay and all that. All of that to say, this is kind of the reason I brought this up, because I want to talk about it. But also, me and Chris are be going to Anime Matsuri in August, where we kind of see, this will be the first time something outside of Dallas for me for a while. But kind of seeing what that con's about is one that it seems like really good. So we'll give you a review after that happens in August, and kind of give you our thoughts and everything. But that's the reason I brought this up, because I thought it was kind of interesting how they've tried to build this con up over the years and make it what it is now. And it's kind of just funny how cons also kind of had to catch back up after COVID and things. Do you give any final thoughts, Chris, before we move to charts?
No, I mean, I will say that I am excited to go to this new con. I mean, because it's new to me, and I want to experience what it's like to be at a con outside of Dallas for a change. See if the fans are any different. So it will be an interesting field trip, I should say.
Yes, it will be. I think it's funny, living in the area we live in. We've had so much. You live in living in the Dallas area, you kind of see not the same. Like, there's multiple cons in this area, but they're all really about the same in terms of what they kind of show off for the most part. There's a few outsiders, like WeebCon's an outsider in that. There's a couple other ones that are kind of outsiders, like DreamHack is coming here in June, which is just a gaming thing. So there's small other ones outside of that, but most of the anime ones are pretty kind of standard to each other. So we'll see how this one compares in a different place. But I'm wondering if this is going to be kind of a new way of trying to get the cities to get involved, like just showing the fact they were the people who own the con were the first to go talk to the city and see what they could do, and then that partnership grew and grew as much as it could over the time period. But let's get
Correct.
into the anime charts. So these charts, yeah, I don't know what's going on. I don't know what's going on
There's
right now.
no
These
such thing as stability.
no stability is thrown out the window. Stability is like we left stability, and it's like we're just kind of going to chaos now, and the chaos has just kind of happened. So I'll go run these down, then we'll talk about them. So we have Kaiju number 8 at 1, Dead Alive 5 at 2. It stays at 2. Konosuba at 3, dropped 2 spots. Lucian Dungeon moved up 6 spots to 4. Go Go Loser Ranger moved up 8 spots to 5. Jobless moved up 2 spots from 8. Windbreaker dropped 3 spots. Then you also had How to Love Your Elf Bride went up 1 spot. Spice and Wolf dropped 2 spots. Unmasked Memories dropped 7 spots. Chris, what did you think about this chart? Because this chart seems like after episode 2 of Kaiju, people were like, okay, Kaiju was where we needed at. Kaiju's at where it's at right now. We like it.
I mean, bro, look at it this way. We are just coming out of the first quarter of the anime for this season.
Mm-hmm.
It's a lot to be said right now, especially with these charts looking at the way they are. I mean, bro, it's absolutely insane to think that this chart may look completely different next week.
Yeah.
I mean, because with the way things are going, it's going to change.
How much do you think it changes? Because at this point, Kaiju jumping 10 spots tells me people like Kaiju. But on the flip side of that, I remember Deon mentioned the fact he thought it was okay. And with episode 2, he kind of was like, episode 2 is kind of like, I see what they're doing, but it's not great. The rest of the chart, I'm actually happy like Go Go Lose Ranger is up in the top 5. It should be. That deserves it. Dozin Dungeon, where it's sitting right now, perfect, because I think Dozin Dungeon is one of the best ones. Konosuba dropping 2 spots doesn't surprise me. It was at the top. It might have fell off a little bit. I'm actually surprised Unnamed Memories dropped so much to 10. That kind of, I don't know if that just tells me that Kaiju did so well and then everything had to drop behind it, or just like ultimately nothing really got changed from that. But we'll see. I mean, the only other thing about this chart, I also kind of feel like has to kind of do itself justice. Let me look at the full chart real quick because I think there was. So, yeah. So after Unnamed Memories, you had The Time I Got Reincarnated Slime at 11. Level 2 Level 2 Super Cheap Power at 12. Moonlight Fantasy Season 2 at 13. A Condition Called Love at 14. Michio Kahama Family at 15. 7 Times Princess at 16. Bree Monster at 17. Grandpa and Grandpa Triangan at 18. I use my appraisal skill to raise in the world at 19, and then the Misfit of a Demon King Academy Part 2 is at 20. Then Jellyfish at 21. It's weird to see Slime on that top 10 list, but I also, talking about the gaming thing, I think it's kind of like the same problem. Like, what do you do with Slime? Because I think Reincarnated is a good show, but I don't think it's not at the level of this. It's one behind, so it's at 11, but it's just outside the top 10. probably could be in the top 10 spot if Unnamed Memories wasn't there. I kind of think Remonster should be higher on this list. It's at 17. It should be in the top 15 at least, or even top 10. But I know Remonster's kind of that weird one where it's like, some of the stuff you do in Remonster is not the greatest.
That's putting it mildly.
Yes, that's putting it very mildly. But ultimately, too, I'm also like, Kohama Family could probably be higher. It's at 15. It's probably in the top 10. I think a lot of these shows with one or two good episodes will do so much better. Like, it's so weird. Do you kind of agree with that, Chris?
I mean, so looking at these charts, it's hard to say. I'll put it that way, because the one that's from Anime Weekly, the fact that they have a Jobless as the first, now, I wouldn't put that first. However, I do believe Delicious in Dungeon belongs there. Flying Loser Ranger, and there are a few things, but stuff like Seventh Prince, I don't think that should be where it's at, even though it is not on the top 10.
Okay.
So I mean, like that's why I like both of these charts right now, because I feel like when you look at Anime Corner, okay, I can see why Kaiju 8 is at number 1. In Windbreakers at 7 instead of 13. You like, but I feel like when it comes to these two shows, we are seeing the duality of fans. One show is some fans are kind of drama based, and some fans are kind of action based.
Yeah, I can see that. It's kind of funny because that's unlike. Well, it's unlike last season. Last season we had a lot of drama stuff and not a lot of isekai or fantasy stuff. So this season, I think it's a mix of both, and it's mixed a lot. The mix is a lot better. A lot of isekai, but a lot of isekai is mixed in with a lot of drama stuff and like a lot of slice of life. But we'll see how that kind of plays out more. I don't know if that's gonna fix a lot of the problems that we've had with other shows, but it should help the charts at least, where it's not as overly one side or the other. But let's look at.
I mean, that's true.
Yeah. Let's look at the other chart you cited from Reddit, which shows that, like you say, Tensei is at number 1, Delicious Dungeon number 2, Konosuba number 3. You had Kaiju at 4, Spy and the Family, or Spice and Wolf, excuse me, at 5, Reincarnated Slime at 6. You have Loser Ranger at 7, Jellyfish Camps from the 9 at 8, Train to the End of the World at 9, Whisper Me Love Song is at 10, Sound Ephraim 3 is at 11, Moonlight Fantasy at 12, Camp Yoan Camp at 13, Seven Prince at 14, and Windbreaker at 15. I don't know what they're gonna do. Well, there's a couple things. One, I think where Kaiju sits now, I think Kaiju sits in a good place. Kaiju sitting at 4 on that chart, 1 on this chart. I think that's about where it should be. Ultimately, too, I don't know what you do with. I don't know if you do with, like, it's like you said, Chris. I don't think you should put I don't think Musou Tensei should be at 1 on that chart. I think it's around the 6 part, the 6 or 5,
Right.
5 or 6 spot. Distant Dungeon being at 4, or Distant Dungeon being at. Oh wait, Distant Dungeon wasn't even on this list. That's right. Oh no, they were 2.
See?
Them being at 2 on that chart, and then being around, I think around the 7. That about where it should be. I don't know. It's gonna be. It's weird because I don't know if fans are just doing it based on episodes or based on what, um, what we get at for each, what each show can bring, because each show has different plot points and things. Some might have better action than others. It could be so many different things. I don't know what would happen. I will say this, and I don't know if I should. I'll ask this anyway. What would your top 3 be right now? We're about a fourth of the way through, like you said. What would your top three anime be right now?
That, sir, is a very good question. So, my top 3 at the moment is, let's see. So, number 3 is going to be Reincarnated as a Slime. Number 2 is going to be Kaiju number 8. And believe it or not, number 1 is going to be Delicious in Dungeon.
Ooh, okay. So you have, okay. So you said Slime, Kaiju, Delicious in Dungeon.
Yep.
I don't know where. It's gonna be interesting. I think if I had to put my top 3, it's gonna be. Okay, so this is gonna be interesting top 3. I think Go Loser Ranger, Slime,
It's tough, ain't it?
This last one's gonna hard because I can't. If you had to push me on it, I would probably say. Okay, if you had to push me on it, I would probably say, God's Game We Play. Just because I think it does a better job of storytelling than Kaiju does. A little bit better job of storytelling. Because they've actually showed us more characters, shows about the gods and all that. It's weird because it's like you say, it's so close. And I feel like that's gonna be something that's gonna be hard to replicate throughout the next coming seasons. But I think it's just kind of like, how do you make that make sense ultimately? Yeah, I mean, I want to know what y'all top 3 in the comments would be right now in the fourth third of the season. We're 4 episodes in for most of the shows. It's not this season's strong, and this season's too strong. And I think Summer's gonna have a hard time trying to compete with this after this season. The summer season is gonna be
you got to remember that a good part of these shows are going to be on the summer season now.
Correct. They are going to continue. A lot of them are going 20 to 25 episodes anyway, so we're guaranteed to some to continue. But it's still, even with that, we're getting Demon Slayer in 2 weeks. We're getting My Hero Academia in a week and a half. In a week. So it's like,
so these charts are going to change again.
Correct. And with those both coming out, it's gonna be hard to understand what do people really want to see. I envy the people trying to figure out what's going to be the best show of this season because I don't think there is one. There's too much.
Neither do I.
There's too much out, and I think there's way too much to try to gauge at this point. But let's get into the episode. We're going to start off with Reincarnated Slime. See how, because that was the lesser of these two episodes, because I think Reincarnated is mainly just building up to their things, but it's still not bad. I think it's really good either way. That's the one that I think is going to slow burn, which makes sense. So
yeah,
we're good.
I would say the same.
So let's go to episode 52. I will say this, but this episode does a really good job of this episode does a really good job of continuing the momentum through dialogue. And yes, I know people are gonna say we're not getting no action. Hear me out. The way they do the dialogue here and the way we see things in this episode puts other things in motion. Puts things in motion we haven't seen yet. And that's the big thing with this. I think these next couple episodes for Slime, putting things in motion, having things connect. What's that gonna be for a lot of these, and making our story kind of build into itself to get to the point we're gonna be at sooner rather than later. But let's get into it. In a second, I will say 3, 2, 1, and then we'll get into it. Chris, you ready?
Almost.
Okay, no worries.
Having some technical difficulties. Give me a second. Reincarnated as a Fly, episode 52. Everyone has a part to play.
Yep, that's the one.
All right, ready when you are.
Okay. In 3, 2, 1, go. That's the other thing I learned about this season. With all the songs I've added to my playlist, which is at 100 now, after this season, a lot of rock style openings.
Yes.
Which is not bad. It's just it's interesting. A lot of guitar, a lot of drum set, little bit of everything.
But I feel like rock music is kind of like the staple or the standard when it comes to anime songs.
Yeah. And see, the other thing about people saying it's slow, we still have a bunch of characters we haven't met. Based on this opening, there's at least 5 or 6 characters we haven't met yet. So,
which is why the next episode we should see some new faces.
Correct. There was a sword grizzly near. So he's an A rank adventurer?
No, he was saying that the level that Bear was at, it usually takes an A rank adventurer to slay it, and he did it with no problem.
Okay, so he's higher than that, basically. Basically, we're saying that he's like
Basically.
OP.
But we've already determined that most of the Majin are S class.
Yes, they're really they're S class. I think it's kind of
I
funny
can't
they've
wait
made
to
up.
see how that change.
Go ahead.
The tower that they're building for Millium, I can't wait to see how it actually looks when they finish it.
Yeah, that's gonna be very interesting. Even the fact they're building a full-on generator with um all they can harness all the magic tools and stuff and use it.
Oh, you telling me? Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, they're about to show
They're just now getting to it.
Yeah, that's what he's talking about. I was like, okay, so y'all really kind of built up the city, even though you don't really know. By the way, why does she hold Rimuru when they're talking like that?
He always holds Rimuru like that.
Okay, I was there a reason behind it, or just she just hold it? She just hold him.
Because when he's in his slime form, he's more like a cute pet.
Oh yeah.
So
That's true.
in most animes, that's how they hold their cute pet.
Oh, so it also forces animals not to spawn in the area.
Yep.
Huh. That's actually kind of interesting. So basically, anything that the Gabi and his crew can't handle would be almost impossible to spawn.
Pretty much.
Okay, that's actually a cool way of saying
Like,
like we avoid spawn rates for certain things.
mm-hmm. They really did think of everything.
Oh yeah, yeah. Which they spot, which you would be able to.
Mm-hmm.
And so, what was the purpose of building more eventually? Just to have they could have more energy flowing, more less empty energy
because
just flowing around.
because they're building a road to another city. They're building a
Okay.
road to another city, so that's why they need more.
Oh yeah, because we're going to that city that kind of we don't know much about yet.
Yeah.
I love the fact he wants to unleash his aura, but he's restraining his aura so much. He's like, I have to release it sooner or later.
But I like how everybody actually came to like explain that to Rimuru. Like, yeah, bro, like everybody's got to let it leak a little bit, or else they, it's uncomfortable.
Yes, it is. It basically feels like you're holding in a bunch of things, holding in like something without really needing to.
Right.
I love how Diablo's the voice of reason. Diablo's like, yeah, if he holds all that in, it's really bad. So,
And I was like, why is the devil the voice of reason?
he's been the voice of reason. He's been the voice of reason for like the last couple episodes. It's like, yeah, the guy who's not
No.
he's a demon is the voice of reason. That doesn't really make much sense.
Yeah, well, that's anime logic for you.
Yeah.
They just left him in there.
Yeah, I love that. They left him in there, he fell asleep and he's still sleeping. We come back. It's kind of so good.
Remember, they did that in the first season too.
Yes, they did. So I'm guessing he gets bored by all this talk. That's why.
Yep. Hold on yourself.
Unless they you told yourself without even needing to, because you could have got away with that.
Right.
going through his elegant training and it's not really working out.
Mhm.
I do love the fact that King has to be tough about that, and he's the only but the king is the only person who can teach him that, even though everybody else in the kingdom don't want it.
And everybody else in the kingdom ain't really got much of a choice.
Correct. They signed that treaty. So basically, Diablo saying, "Hey, they aren't they going to build an army? Yeah, I already had a backup plan. I had him build our army up, so our army's going to be super strong as well."
Yeah.
So
I already got an army ready. Yep.
So basically, y'all can't do
They
a
can do what
thing.
they want to, but we ready. They can do what we want. They can do what they want to, but we ready either way.
So what is that? Oh, that's the crystal ball talk through move, right?
Yep.
Okay. But the Western Holy Church was planning on doing something, right? They were going to get involved.
Even not unless they have to, or but then again, they did just get their butts handed to them.
Correct. Oh yeah, because they think Clem is the mastermind, but he's actually not the mastermind. Oh yeah, because Luminous is the lady at the head of the other the clan. Yep. Yeah, it doesn't make sense. She's bringing up the point like the Holy Church then was talking to the king, but then Clayman was trying to use another demon lord, but also try to use his own power to take over some parts. So everybody's trying to take over this land for really no reason.
Well, because it's a major trade route. That's
Mm-hmm.
that's what the whole show has been getting about. Rimuru and that forest of his sits right in the middle of a trade route, a major trade route.
Well, okay, if you want the
So
trade route,
and the fact that yeah, I like when he steps into his human form on this one, simply because he looks like a leader, like he has on just a straight white crisp shirt.
yep,
It's in
he
most
does.
animes that shows that he's a proper leader.
I love the fact he don't want to break her. He don't want to break her heart, but he's just like, what can I have her do? Because I know she's not good at really anything.
Right, because the last thing she needs to do is start cooking.
Nope. Yep. Even though her cooking's gotten better, technically.
Right.
I still can't believe what that's about. It's gonna be interesting when we hear the conversation finally. So that was episode 52 of Reincarnated Slime. This episode was mainly a lot of talking, but it sets up a lot of things in motion where now we're seeing them get ready to check security, make sure everything was running right, start building the thing for Midna, and just kind of get a lot of things in order. Ultimately, this episode just kind of built up the last. And I think the big thing about this episode that most people are gonna really feel like there was not much anything else really going on. But there doesn't have to be. I think you can have an episode like this and still make sense out of it. And I think the biggest thing with this episode is going to make sense of what can be next.
Yeah, I can agree with that because I mean this show's getting ready to take a drastic turn. They just set up. I mean, they're in the middle of just setting up their story, and the fact that he kind of gave everybody a part to play means that okay, now we're about to now the story is actually about to start.
Mm-hmm. So the opening of the show basically opens with the fact that we see them in the main meeting room. Room talks about a festival that's coming up, and he talks about what we're gonna do for the festival. Ultimately, first he asked the blue-haired orc about something he fought. Like he fought this bear-looking thing, and this bear was pretty strong. Ultimately, the system thing in Remove Zero says the bear is spider bear. This bear is basically like an A rank type bear, which means that you would need to be at least that rank of adventurer to really defeat him. But we kind of know that the orcs are pretty strong themselves. And even Gabby asked, "How did you defeat him? What'd you do?" And he's like, um, simple. It wasn't too hard." That's kind of surprising. They ultimately talk about the other thing they were doing is building this energy source where it can collect all these magic and like disperse them, and where it's not going to overuse the magic at all. But ultimately, it helps for the new trade route they're about to build. Um, the head of one of the Dwarven people that is in Rumor's group, who's one of the best at building weapons and things, so they've already had the process started with the scientist dude, and they're just trying to figure out how to make it better. And then it's ultimately continuing. They said, "Do you want to see it?" And he says, "Yes." So, um, we see them at the little site where the little rune is at. He mentions the rune has this magic crystal and everything, and the magic crystal spins to make more power. And ultimately, these power things are gonna just make this town more efficient. And then the last thing I really want to get to, once you see them talk about it, he's kind of like, we wouldn't really need people to be around the thing. We just need people to check if they're working normally. And then they pull up a thing showing what's on the bottom where it can make other symbols and signs for different magic spells and things. And they've been talking it through with other the rest of the people in town where they could maybe carry them and it'd be easier to carry them. But ultimately, the whole thing is once they make more of them, they can have multiple versions out in that little area to do stuff with. So, Chris, what do you think about this first part? This first 7 minutes and 42 seconds of this episode?
Well, I mean, like I said, bro, this show has been setting the tone for like the last 3 to 4 episodes. It is getting a little bit old, but at least there's still like at least in this episode we saw Reamer putting his plan together. He's in like kind of like the state of affairs. He's meeting with his generals, his top advisors. He's making plans. It's like, dude, this is the kind of slice of life you don't normally see, because it shows a part of life that most people don't get to experience.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I like it.
I will say it was a really good opening, just kind of get us an understanding of what they're going to be building for the city. And then he says the pig people are going to help them build more of them, and also put them in for the rest of the place for the trade route to get to the city they're trying to get to. Then basically, Valdora says, "Hey, so since y'all putting those in, I can unleash my aura, right?" And they're like, "No, if you do that, that's kind of dangerous. That's not great if you do that."
Everybody gonna die. Everybody gonna die.
Yep.
That's what he said. Everybody gonna die.
So Removal tells him, "No, don't do that." But then ultimately, the system in his head goes, "Well, if Valdorma doesn't do that, then ultimately the power will stay in him, and it doesn't help him at all because it just ends up making him more uncomfortable." Then, funnily enough, there was a reason in these last couple episodes. Diablo goes, "Yeah, that's the case. If that actually, so he needs to release a little bit of it just to keep him from having that problem." And Rimuru asked Valdor, "Is it the case?" He says, "Yes." When Rimuru was like, "Do I let a dragon release all that power knowing the destruction can cause?" And he's like, "No, but we'll figure something out." Then we see Gabda still in the meeting room sleeping because he never left the room, which is kind of funny. There's kind of like a little cut. It's like that's our little commercial break where it cuts to that, which is actually kind of funny. I will also say here it's interesting to see that Rimuru gives the pig head the plans for building Minda's fortress, and it looks pretty cool. The fortress makes it understandable, and the pig head's like, "I can do this. We got this," and he gets help from the Dwarven guy and a couple other people, and they want to make sure it looks really amazing for him. Gobba speaks up and says something, basically outing himself, and Rimuru's like, "We'll talk after the meeting. Come to my office." And he's like, Gub's like, "Great, I should have not said anything at all." Ultimately, kind of getting himself outed, and then the pig guys kind of think about what he should do with the plans and things, and ultimately, the conversation kind of changes over to what's happening with our friend who's going to take over the kingdom with his time to treaty with Falmuth, and the king is teaching him how to use his manners and things, and it's not really going well. But at the same time, Gabby mentions like, "Oh, he must be tough," and yeah, he's tough. That's the point. He's supposed to be tough. And then ultimately, Diablo says, "I already have a plan for if they try to build an army, which they are trying to do. I already have Benimaru building up our army. So if anything goes down, I can fight back," which makes sense because Rimuru and them are not going to do this lying down. And then after this, we kind of see that Diablo mentions he gave the Western Church guy a crystal ball they can talk to Rimuru with, and he said he can guard that with his life and all that. So ultimately, we kind of get that little line now. And then the last thing is from this little section is that Diablo's also mentioned that ultimately, whatever happens, we are prepared for it. So nothing to worry about there. What do you think about this next little section, Chris? This is about 14 up to 1442. So this middle section.
Oh, I mean, bro, this little section with Diablo showing what he's doing, bro. This is what we've been seeing the last few episodes. To me, it wasn't necessarily called for, but I mean, I can see why they did it. He is in his quote unquote war room, so it's like he got to. I mean, he's there to listen to his council's advisors. But I got to say, now this whole plan that Diablo has in store for him, though, it's like, dang, dude, you really did think of a plan, but not only one step, but maybe even 4 or 5 steps ahead of the enemy. So yeah, this is good.
He's basically 3 steps ahead of what everybody else was trying to do. He's already kind of thought about, if y'all do this, I've already planned this. If y'all do this, I've planned this, and also the backup. So basically, he knows if they really try to go after and attack them, he's already planned out. Here's the army ready to go. Or if they don't do that, I can also wipe them out in a different way entirely. So, but the different way I can wipe them out is just I have the crystal ball, so I can see everything you're doing and everything you're talking about. Great. I like the fact he's cunning and he has that cunningness to him. So this last little part basically is just more of the same, kind of going back on what they need to do. We get the princess of Benimaru's sister kind of talking about, so I wonder what Clayman was all about. What was Clayman's whole plan with trying to become one of the strongest? And then Rimuru kind of thinks about, well, we have that, we have the Holy Church, and then the Holy Church leads into the fact that that army that's led up by the lady is kind of does some stuff too. So they're kind of looking at all these things and like, what's going on here? So why is everybody trying to talk? And then heard the voice in Rimuru's head, Brady pipes up and says, all these things are happening. If you go down these certain path, any path, you're gonna the fall of Tempest is gonna happen. Even if you reverse that, the fall of Tempest could still happen. So ultimately, it's gonna be a weird thing to see how they're gonna take it. But ultimately, they kind of mentioned that Clayman tried to use, but also tried to use his own power. The king was influenced by the church, but ultimately the other girl was influenced by the demon vampire lord. It didn't. Everybody has a plan. Everybody's trying to get this power, but yet there's no real reason behind it. So then Rumor reiterates what everybody needs to do, and then so that does happen. But at the same time, she asked the princess to see what Clement had in his possessions, all that kind of stuff. He asked Benimaru to get the army ready. He asked the goblin head to get the festival ready. Gabby to help Benimaru, and then the last person he really goes to is Shion. She's like, What do I give Shion? What do I give Shion? What do I? And he's trying to think. What do I give Shion? Oh, Shion, you can help me and Rafta, and company Rafta to where we're headed. He's like, okay, and she's like really happy about it. Valdora doesn't look too pleased, but he also understands he can't really do much with this. On the other side is two. We see that he gave other things to the old man and a couple other people, so everybody has a part to play. Um,
Everybody has a part to play.
and that's the point. So he's like, we're not too worried. But then we see them cut to the Western Hurry Church place, and he's like, we see the cut to the Western Hurry Church, and you see everybody from that army sitting in a room, like all the generals, and then the main general comes in, the lady we've seen before, and she says, "Sorry, I'm late. Let's get started." And that's how the episode ends. Chris, what do you think about this back half? What do you think is going to happen now? Because I think there's a couple things that could happen, but I don't know where they could take it.
Look, looking at it from this point of view, I want to see how his party is going to come out, because his party is going to be where we start to see the new races and everybody coming from all over the forest, as well as a lot of dignitaries and new. It's like I really want to see how this party is going to go, because I feel like that's when we're also going to see the vampire girl come with the holy girl who almost killed Remorse. I think they're going to come to that party as a gesture of good faith.
Okay. What do you think about the end where we see the lady from the Holy Army basically coming to a meeting and said, "Sorry, I'm late. Let's begin." What are they going to talk about? Do you think is there going to be a way to stop Rimuru? And
well, no. Earlier they were talking about some of the angels coming. So I wonder if either they are the angels or there's a bigger threat on the horizon.
Okay, that makes more sense. That would make more sense. That'd be different. I wonder if that's going to be something for later down the road. I don't think we're going to get that conversation right away for some reason. I think it's going to be like a 2-episode thing, maybe episode thing, 1 episode or 2 episodes before we get that conversation. But we will get that conversation because I think it's a plot point level conversation. But yeah, this was a good episode. A lot of talking, but a lot of things building up to certain things. I don't think it was like the most insightful episode, but I think it gives you what they're going to be doing, what you can see everybody doing in the next couple weeks. I think we see more of the road, the crystals being built to the road. I think we see the festival getting ready. I think we'll have the festival as of next episode, technically. Everybody else is going to do their thing with security and making sure everything works right and all that kind of stuff. But Chris, what would you give Reincarnated Slime episode 52 as a rating?
I'm going to get a solid 6.5 because I'm giving it this because I know where the show is going to be going to a degree because of the last seasons that they've had. But I do agree with most other fans that it is pacing rather slowly right now. And I would have liked to see at least somebody spar just to get an action scene or something in. But I'm still satisfied with what they're doing.
Okay. I would give it 7.5, somewhere in there. Yeah, 7.5. I'm like you. I don't think it's too terribly slow. It is slower, but we do know what's coming. We haven't hunted what's coming next. Did I want one maybe fighting scene somewhere in there? Yeah, but ultimately I can't be too mad because you just give us a lot of story stuff. I rather you give us a lot of story stuff now and then we can get to the action later because we know the action is going to be insane once we get to that point anyway. But we'll see how that all plays out in the back half.
Yeah, this is a high visual anime. Like those fights are going to be epic.
Correct. But we'll see how it ends up because I think that's going to be the most fun part of this episode, more or less. I will say it's going to be also interesting to see if the hype will stay where it is because I think a lot of people are going to dip in and out until they get to the fights. But that's just because of what the show is. As well.
Yeah, I can see a lot of fans waiting to binge watch it.
Yes, yeah. I don't know if you want to binge watch 24 episodes. I would rather not, but that's just me. But let's get into Kaiju number 8. Me and Chris did watch this when it did the premiere episode. It was kind of weird. The premiere episode was interesting. They had the commercials already built into. Now so we're just watching it without the commercials built into it. This episode's actually really fun. I want to explain something because I think this episode does something really interesting that I think I appreciate more than ever. But we'll get to it when we get to it. Other than that, I think Kaiju is gonna have a weird thing. Once Demon Slayer comes out, I think it's gonna be the other one that can do it. I think it's gonna have a hard time keeping up with everything because I don't think My Hero Academia is gonna be able to fight this a little bit. I think once Demon Slayer comes out, when Demon Slayer comes out, if it can't fight it, it'll be hard to keep up. But we'll see how everything goes. In a second, I will say 3, 2, 1, and then we get going. Chris, you ready?
Almost. Just give me.
No worries.
It takes a little bit of time on this here tablet. All right, ready when you are.
Okay. So in 3, 2, 1, let's go. Episode 3 of Kaiju number 8, Revenge Match. And they kind of replay what happened in the last episode with the car. She lit the car up. So we'll see this again. There is one thing I will say. She did chuck the car, but she could have chucked that car a lot farther if she wanted to.
Yes. Now that is the important note, is that she could have chunked that thing.
So much farther. Oh, he says we work in Kaiju disposal. Okay, so he covers that up for him. And how's he live? Yeah, there we go.
He clearly did that just to show off.
Yeah, he had to show it off.
But it's your job.
Yeah. Seppasu and her 2 body. Okay. All right. This girl's kind of cocky. Oh, and he about to go bad.
Yeah, but she kind of has every reason to be cocky.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, because you can see her hand. I love how he's acting like his parents. I love that. That's so great. Now hearing English, I'm like, okay, I see what they were trying to go for at this first part.
You're right. Yeah, I think this is definitely one of the better intros and songs of the season.
Still one of the best. Between this song and the Open to Go Go Ranger, I've listened to that so much the last couple days.
Yes.
And this is by Youngblood, which is funny because it's an American song. Which is like, this is basically American. Both these songs are both English bases for the show.
Well, see, what I believe this shows though is how much of an influence Americans have on Japanese anime.
Oh yeah. So they're doing like boot camp training.
Yep, crab camp, as I like to call it.
Yep. Yeah, but you haven't done something like that. I'm, yeah, so he's ranked 219 out of 225.
Got to do better with that.
Oh, that's why he was groveling like that. Okay. No. Okay. I love that where he's like, there's a lot of little folks to keep in this class, like, and you hear our characters, the character say it for him. I love how he finished that sentence, even though he didn't have to. And you're showing off the characters as well. $16. I love how that happens. Nobody told me you're a big freaking deal. And he just punch to get the finish sentence. Chris, did they use that term right?
I think so.
Okay.
I mean, it can be used in a lot of different ways, depending on if they
Yeah,
actually use the Oxford Dictionary.
because he says I'm kind of boned, but I'm like, that basically just means he's kind of in trouble. But it's like but it's also like, wait, is that the right way to use that in that sense? It's also gonna.
That can either mean I'm tired, or I got missed over.
Yeah.
Because that doesn't necessarily have to be our slang. That could be Japanese slang that's been translated.
Translate to English. Yeah.
Because if you're in a movie Accepted, there was a guy who uses it.
Okay. Yeah. I would probably quit this exam after you tell me that.
No, you wouldn't.
You know,
You would
if you
stick it out.
told me if you told me I had to go try to kill these things with no power, yeah, even though you get the gun, like they give you the gun, I don't really think that's gonna be enough because a lot of people don't have them. Yeah, but he would have known that. See, they said muscle fibers, which reminds me of Simkets from Kill la Kill.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. And that's where we get them disposing of certain parts, giving to labs, and building them out to make these suits.
He's so proud of that.
Yeah.
So what if 100% is just a kaiju?
Could be, but I think I think I heard from like pre-release material from like people talking about the show, and like 100% basically like your like mental capacity, like you can like it's basically
But
almost
it's still gonna be really interesting how they make their suit work over his exoskeleton.
mm-hmm. He transformed the kaiju, he's done, so he's trying to avoid that problem.
Right.
Ooh, okay. There's only one line I didn't like from that. We can't guarantee your survival. Wait, are you training these people to try to do this? So why can't you guarantee their survival?
Because I mean, there is monsters and unpredictable things do happen.
But if you have them have shield, if you have the shields on the suits,
Yeah, but he said even they fail. And so something can still hit it hard enough to where it doesn't work.
and that's the young kid from earlier, from the flashbacks.
Those guns do look cool though.
Yes, they do. You heard the man. Aim for the belly. And there you go.
And there it goes. Creepy shouldn't be the fanboy.
I love that. Well, it also like they say they gave the tools to defeat it, so you should know how to. You should know how to understand.
Maybe you have to understand that not every battle can be won with brute force.
Correct. Watch out.
Ooh, man got hit like a linebacker for real.
Yes, he did. He did get hit like a linebacker from like a football game. One hand too. Not even trying to do the body. automatically.
There goes another shot from Attack on Titan.
When? Oh yeah. You're right. Who saved him? Oh, the girl, right? Yeah, she
Yep.
saved him.
I feel like this show is gonna have some dark tones, but it's hard to tell when it's gonna happen.
What kind of dark tones? Because I can see a couple dark things, but the dark things you're looking at is like I'm thinking of as like characters.
Yeah, I remember. We're thinking the same thing.
Okay.
Not every person is gonna survive.
I mean, he could heal his leg, but he's not going to do it.
I just want to know what would happen if he tried to kaiju up right now.
It would heal him completely.
Yeah, but how would it react to that suit though?
Oh, I think it wouldn't. If the suit wouldn't affect him because it wouldn't affect the suit because the suit's made of kaiju anyway. So I think it would just be like the head.
That's what I'm saying. I wonder if it would fuse with that or something.
Mm-hmm.
Thinking if you go by the laws of other kaiju shows, then it probably would.
By the way, if his ankle was if any bones were shattered, his ankle would have broke by now.
Most definitely.
Yeah, so I don't know how he's standing, but
Like you really wouldn't be able to stand.
I love the music here.
Like that dead stare. Yeah.
Yes, both sides of that dead stare, literally just like they're just both looking at one looking at that screen, the other looking back like, I'm surprised you what? Okay, fair enough.
Right.
Let's get into this because this is why that number two, basically number one on the charts. And it's a weird thing to say. I think it did a good job here, and I'll explain why I think this is one of the better times of this show doing something. A show like this doing something like this. So this show starts out with how it ended up last time. Basically, we see the lady throw his car to that other spot. He's saying, "I'll just move it." Then we see our main character, Kafka, pick up the car, put it back down, and she's like, "How can you do that?" And she's like, and then we hear the line about the kaiju. I smell you. I smell kaiju on you. And then you hear Ichikawa say, "Oh, we work for a kaiju cleaning force. That's why you smell kaiju," covering up the fact he's a kaiju, which I love because they actually do work at a place where kaiju is supposed to. They clean kaiju. Then we basically after that they heard some commotion. Then the people, some of the guards in, they said, "Okay, everything fine, go inside." So they go inside. They said, "I'm not going to give up. I have to do this. I have to do this last time." And ultimately, Ichikawa says that if you do that again, I am not letting you. I'm gonna make sure you don't, and you're not finishing this because he's like his parent, basically saying, "Don't transform." He's like, "I didn't see anything. You're fine." After the intro, we see that they're going through some boot camp stuff. But they have physical fitness test, and then they have aptitude test. Kafka is having a hard time with the physical part because he's getting really tired, and he ends up 219th out of 225, and basically we see a flashback from the car back. He said, "Remember my name," and he's like, "Don't remember my name, don't remember my face, don't remember anything about me. That's bad." And then ultimately he says, "I could have used my power. I could have used my power, but I did it." And Ichikawa's like, "Yeah, you did well." It's like, I should have used my power. Then we see them cut to the main boss lady and one of her assistants, basically saying, "Here's new candidates for this year." Some of them are interesting, and actually, there's a couple of them. She turns to the page of Kafka, and she's like, "Okay," but a few of them have some interesting things, and basically, they do a cut. Once you finish that sentence, Ichikawa picks up and goes, "This guy is this guy. They're all from elite schools and things. This guy's, this guy." So they show us three of the guys, basically, and a couple other people, and then the main thing they say, the girl is from this elite school from California, but she's also the top of her class. She graduated at 16, all this kind of stuff. And everybody's like, okay, we need to beat her. And then ultimately, Kafka goes, "Wait, so how? I'm sorry, I didn't know who you were. How do you?" And then literally in the next, like within a second, her bodyguards punch him out and knock him, like destroy him. And then she walks off. Chris, what do you think about this first 8 minutes or so? Because it was actually really interesting how they did this.
I like the little flashback scene to show that she actually did toss the truck, and then he lifted it back. So there was a little back and forth, and then it's like, okay, so I don't know if they're setting her up to be a rival, or I mean, it's going to be interesting how they make this dynamic of the show, because like even looking at the opening, I guess you could say the screensaver that Crunchyroll has. They have our main character in the center, followed by the blonde girl to his right, and his best friend to his, with the white hair guy to his left, along with the girl and the other guy. So it's like we're seeing the dynamic of a team, but we don't know how this is going to go together just yet.
Correct.
So, I mean, unlike some of the other shows in the season that are starting to, their stories are starting to unfold, I wonder if they're still trying to set Kaiji 8 up.
They could be. I'm interested too, because I think she's gonna be a rival, but also I think she's gonna be turning to a friend eventually. She has the cocky attitude, but I think for the character, I think her character is very interesting. Outside of her main character and Ichikawa, I think she has the next most interesting character. That's all I really can see from this. We'll see how this ends up, though. Ultimately, we see Ichikawa kind of say he's going to beat her, or Kafka says he's going to beat her. Ichikawa goes, "We got this. If the other parts, this fitness thing, this like bomb disposal thing, or disposing of kaiju will be fine." We learn about the next section where they're going to be going against kaiju. So it's disposal. They think it's disposal. Nope. The guy says you have to kill it. And Kafka's like, "Really?" And the girl's like, she's like, "You didn't know that?" And then he goes to Ichikawa, "I thought you said it was going to be I thought you were going to say kaiju disposal." He's like, "It changes every year, so it's something different." They do the suit thing where everybody gets the kaiju, their suits, which is kaiju fiber armor, and these suits match with the body to have their power come out. We learned about a couple, so Ichikawa has 8%. A couple of the guys have 16, 15, and 14. The guys we met from earlier. The girl is the most impressive one, where she has 46% because she's had the most out of everybody. And then our main character has 0, which is kind of insane. Ultimately trying to get out more power than he has. And then he says he has to figure out something. But then the girl character like, "You need to show your power before this is all over, or you're gonna have no time left." So then they go into the field. They show the fact that they're about to go kill these kaiju, and these kaiju are kind of big and cumbersome. And then so they go out there. The girl kind of just pops off. She's going crazy. She just kind of kills a bunch of them off the bat. Ultimately, Ichikawa can pick up the gun, but Kafka can't. Kafka's like, can't do this. I need to find another way. And then he kind of figures out that the captain, his best friend from childhood, is watching, and he's trying to figure something out. So he's like, you know what? We don't have to kill him, but we can. They give us the tools to actually defeat them, so we can lure doing that. Because I've seen these kaiju before. So they go to a place where the kaiju is. This this kaiju he knows about because they helped dispose of it one time, and ultimately they tell the guys. He throws a flashbang at it because its hearing is not as strong, but its sight is weak. Its hearing is super strong, but its sight's weak. So he throws a flashbang to knock out its hearing. He tells the guys shoot it in the stomach, which they do. The guy's like, "Well, thank you for your help, but you're also a fanboy." And he's like, "I'm not a fanboy." Ultimately, Ichikawa and Kafka run back to another kaiju to try to help them out. Then the kaiju comes out of nowhere, like Chris said, tackles him like a linebacker, basically, and just knocks him out. Hits the wall, he falls down.
It looks like he hit him like Ben Roethlisberger. I'm sorry, but yeah, he hit him like Ben Roethlisberger on playing football again, bro. He got straight up blindsided.
He got hit without noticing it was coming. So he's laying on the ground. Ultimately, he's out, but then they're like, he has all these injuries, all these things. And they're like, get the shield ready. And after getting the shield ready, Kafka's like, I can't stop here. I have to keep going. Girl ends up saving him from the attack. She's like, I'm not going to let anybody go down, not even you. And I'm not going to let anybody not live. So, and they're like, this girl's impressive. Why is she so impressive? Because she has all this power. Kafka's like, I need to do something. Kafka knows his legs hurt. And then they're like, oh, he's about to be done. The guy's like, the guy's telling him, you have all these injuries, you have everything hurting. What we're going to do is this. And ultimately, it ends up where Kafka's like, okay, I have to do something. I have to do anything. And Kafka gets the courage to stand up on both his legs with one leg hurting, stand there for a second, ultimately brings out this 0.01% of his power. And that's how the episode ends. I had to finish through that because this back half was just connected and it just flowed a lot better if you did that because it made more sense. Chris, what do you think about this back half? This back half was fun.
Yeah, so this back half, bro. Okay, so my question was, our blonde-haired girl, she shows up with her own suit in the beginning of this episode. I wonder if her suit is really any different from the suit that she's using for combat. And I wonder if her training in that suit is the reason why she has that 46%, which I'm pretty sure it is, but I'm sure they'll tell us in the story at some point.
Probably.
But other than that, bro, she was going off. She was going on, bro. Like, she was like a female spider. Like, she was like Spider-Woman, jumping all over the place, doing every little thing, bro. She was going ham. And I mean, for the life of me, bro, I really cannot understand why our character doesn't at least do like a partial transform to at least keep up or something. But I mean, bro, this dynamic is interesting, but I got to admit it's kind of killing me a little bit because we saw him transform. I'm glad we saw him transform, but then all of a sudden it's like his transformation doesn't exist. And I know his friend is there for a little bit, but bro, you can at least, like, as far as the creators are concerned, I probably need to read the manga or the anime, but come on, give us something. This is still a new show.
I think
we need something to look forward to, and right now y'all are kind of ruining it. This is my opinion.
You're not wrong, but I think the reason why we haven't seen him transform yet, at the beginning of this episode, he says it, I want to do this on my own merits. I want to do this on my own merits without using my powers. But ultimately, every step of the way, a couple different times in the episode, he goes, I want to use my powers. I want to use them, but I didn't. Even Ichikawa mentions you didn't use them at one point, which you could have, but you held off. I like the fact they're not making him transform right away to give him that out. He's going to try to do this without his powers. And when he finally uses his powers, it's going to be a reason for it, ultimately. I think that's what they're getting at. I like that because ultimately, if you did it like other animes where they just show his powers off and then he's always powered up, that's going to get kind of boring. I think they're building up to that point. It's going to happen with the next couple episodes. I think it's happening in the next 2 or 3 episodes easily, hands down. But I do get your point, Chris. I do agree with
Maybe
everything.
so.
Like, if you're not a fan of just like a slow burn for that, it's kind of odd. But they play it so well to the point where she stares at him. He stares, saying, "I'm not going to give up," and you see his friend as a child stare at him like she knows that he's not going to give up. So it's like, oh, he's fighting. He's going to fight to the end, no matter how that ends up. I'm going to ask you this before. I'm going to ask for both the rating and before I ask for the rating, I'm going to ask this: do you think this episode turned a lot of people onto the show, but also is kind of like, I see where they're going, but I need to see more? Do you think that's the case, or do you think this episode was just kind of like action things? That's why people got into it.
So, for those like myself who probably believe that the first 2 episodes should have been one, it's starting to look like maybe episodes 3 and 4 should have been done together as well. And if that's the case, then they're giving me serious vibes from Chainsaw Man.
Which I've never seen, but I know what you're kind of talking about.
Yes,
Okay.
As far as the pacing goes, it was
Okay.
kind of like that.
All right, so I'm gonna ask you this: what would you give Kaiju number 8, episode 3 as a rating?
I would love to give this episode, so I'm giving it a 7, a solid 7.
Okay.
It's still good for what it's doing, and I do like it. However, I just was hoping that I would have saw it progress a little bit more from where it's at now.
I would have to give
Like,
this.
it's still leaving lots to be desired.
Yeah, I would have to give this episode like an 8, so it's a point higher than you. But I think there is still a lot to be desired. But I think it's a slow burn. It's a slow burn, not to get to the point where he's gonna be all powered up already. Because we see in the little opening material, I don't know if it's in the banner or somewhere else. I've seen it where he is in the suit and he's in this kaiju form already. So we know it's coming. They're gonna draw it out. I think we get a next episode right at the end of this like training thing they're doing. He turns full kaiju and finishes out the training to pass. I wonder how much that's gonna matter. But ultimately the girl wants to see it. So we know the blonde hair girl wants to see it. I'm assuming our captain hasn't seen it yet, so she doesn't know he has the power. So once that happens, how people are gonna react. That's the big thing. We'll see how that pans out. Let me know what y'all think in the comments, because these 2 shows have different things. People say Slime's a little slow pacing. I think a lot of people want this to be more high action, which it is, but Kaiju Kaiju's story is kind of in that thing where I think they want to get to the part where he's going to be turning into Kaiju more often. But we'll see where it ends up with episode 4, because episode 4 is probably going to be that mix of where they can add both. But that was episode 54 of the Anime Dojo. We'll be back next week to episode 55, where we do episode 4 of Kaiju number 8 and episode 53 of Reincarnated as Slime. We're about to get into that point now. We're going to have My Hero and Demon Slayer in the picture. So once those 2 get in the picture, it's going to be a lot different. We'll see how that ends up. But this, I do think if watching, this will go up on Spotify right after it processes, and then I'll put it up on YouTube as of Thursday. I do thank Chris for joining me. I do thank you for watching. Hope you did enjoy it. Hope you're here next time. See you.
Later, dudes.